Hello everyone, thank you so much for sitting and watching. And today's video is the video that everyone has been texting me about. It's related to work permits in Sweden. I know some people are trying hard to find jobs in different countries, and Sweden is one of the destinations. But on the other hand, we are having lots of people who are just sitting, not climbing the mountain, but just sitting and thinking that they will be reaching the summit in a way or another, but by just sitting down, doing nothing except showing their interest in coming to Sweden. Again, the labor is extremely challenging, it's extremely competitive. And again, this is due to, number one, that Sweden is not a big country, it's a small country. It has a very strong economy. Technology is something that is, Sweden is considered one of the highest country in using technology. And above all, it needs very, very well-educated and skilled people. So when this is something I will talk again briefly about. The people who are trying to come to Sweden with limited skills and education, it's impossible for them to find job for a simple reason. Sweden has received different immigrants the last 5 to 7 years. They already have a full labor that can be doing all the limited skilled they can be doing all the work that's a little bit need limited skilled people, or they have a full pool full of people who can be doing the jobs that doesn't need highly educated people. So they are from inside the locals now, they are totally saturated. They do not need more people who can do the normal labor jobs. There is a big, huge shortage in Sweden related to more technical jobs. So, for example, doctors, nurses, of course, IT, engineers, policemen. So there are shortages, but the people who are trying to come to Sweden, they do not have the qualifications that fit these jobs. So everyone who is trying to find a job with simple or limited training or education, unfortunately, Sweden is never the right country for them. That's why when they try to apply or try to post asking for any job, they can hardly find anyone getting back to them and back again. Why? Because Sweden now is saturated with people who can be doing the non-technical jobs, and now they need different niche of new employees coming to the country. And this is something that I have been mentioning before in my videos. Swedish is mandatory. Yes, everyone speaks English, but Swedish is mandatory. That's why most of the new employees, except if they were coming in companies that doesn't need people to be speaking Swedish, but most of the time these people are being outsourced from abroad, and it is jobs that doesn't require Swedish, but it is there in Sweden, but this is not the norm. But anyone who wants to come to work, they always has to have an intensive Swedish course. Sometimes the companies offer it in their countries before the people move, because to cut cost. Some people who want to, for example, to be studying something related to medicine or physics or biology, they come and they start, for example, in Uppsala University or in Lund University. They study intensive 1 year academic Swedish, intensive Swedish that can help them in studying further in their field and then working. You will never find, for example, any medicine, anyone who is working in the medical department. If he was a pharmacist, if he was a biologist, or if he was a doctor, you will never find anyone who is not speaking fluent Swedish. There are immigrants who are, of course, working in this field or this sector, but they have studied intensive Swedish for a long time, and then they studied in the same field for some year, so they can be qualified to start a job in Sweden. So this is an intro again about the job market in Sweden. The first and foremost that I will want to start with, and this is one of the things that about advertisement. There is maybe some people have heard or searched and found this unhappy, ugly news that there are many people who came and started working in Sweden, and after 2 years they couldn't be renewing their work permit visa. This is due to the error that happened from the beginning from the employer, that any job that is being advertised, or if we can, no, sorry, if any employer wants to be advertising for any job, he has to be advertising it for 10 days first in the Swedish Public Employment Service, which is the Arbetsförmedlingen first, and it has to be, and this pool or this website of jobs, it's people in Europe and in Switzerland have access to. So they have to advertise in this website first, and for after 10 days, if they didn't get any employees or they didn't find the right employee, they can start recruiting new employees from abroad. There was this very famous story last year for one employee who was working in a technical company. He bought a house, he learned Swedish, everything is fine. When he wanted to be extending his permit in Sweden, he got a decision to be deported, and then the reason was that he applied to a job through LinkedIn, not through the Swedish Public Employment Service. And there was a big propaganda about this story last year, that the person has to lose his job. He has, I think, to sell his house, and he had a very bright career in Sweden, but it ended up that he was deported. I think now he's trying to reapply again, but there is also this funny thing that if you are trying to come back to Sweden, you couldn't do it within 6 months. You have to wait for longer. Some people say, oh, this is not a true regulation, but some people still face this problem that if they are trying to come after 6 months or within 6 months trying to reapply, especially because of technical errors from the Swedish Migration Office side, they still have the problem that they have to be waiting 6 months or more. So this is the first thing. So now we have talked about the advertisement. This is the first thing that you need to make sure if you are trying to apply for a job through LinkedIn, that the employer, when you are talking to the employer, you have to check that this job has been published in the Swedish employment agency, the Arbetsförmedlingen first. So the second thing, you have to have a valid, of course, a valid passport. When you are moving to Sweden. There is another thing which is also very critical, and I'm going to be referring here to the Migration Office website. Offer terms of employment that are at least on par with those set by Swedish collective agreements, or which are customary within the occupation or industry. Offer a salary that is at least on par with those set by Swedish collective agreements, or which is customary within the occupation or industry. What does this mean? Because I think Sweden here is a little bit exceptional in this regulation. So, for example, lots of employers like to get cheap employees, and here I mean by cheap that they don't want to pay them much. If they are going to be paying for a Swedish person, and here I don't mean Swedish, it doesn't have to be Swedish person, like an employer who is living or in Sweden, okay, a Swedish citizen, or for the locals, because I don't want to say the word Swedish. I don't always mean the Vikings. I mean Swedish employer. It means anyone who has the right to work in Sweden within Sweden. So Sometimes the employer try to get cheap labor. So, for example, instead of hiring someone from Sweden and paying him 5,000 euros, which is about 50,000 Swedish krona, they try to get someone from Pakistan, because they are going to be taking, instead of 5,000, 3,000 euros. This doesn't work, because according to this industry or this field, there is certain regulation that a person working in this field should be taking from 35 to 50,000 Swedish krona. I will talk in euros. That he should be taken from 3.5 to 5,000 euros. If the employer try to play smart and hire someone from abroad, so he can pay him or her 3,000 euros, he can come, and then after 2 years, when he's trying to be extending his stay, his permit, it will be refused, because he didn't meet he wasn't offered a salary that is at least on par with those set by Swedish collective agreements, because there are Swedish collective agreements which agree that any job, this is the minimum, this is the maximum, because they want to make sure that the people are who are working in this labor, that the employers are not using or exploiting employees. So you can find that people with very high skill are having very low salary, because the employer is trying to get the cheapest salary is being offered. That's why there is always there is the collective agreement. And this is also another there was another interesting story about this. There was the person in 2000, not only one person, so multiple people. In 2017 or 18, he got salary. He was offered a salary that he accepted, but according to his skills, he should have been offered more higher salary. So when he tried to renew he came to Sweden and he studied Swedish, and he had his wife with him, and they had a daughter here. When he went to renew his visa, because it's always 2 years visa, it was rejected and he was deported. He tried to appeal, and lots of different activists and newspapers and different people have tried to get involved to freeze this decision. But even when he appealed to the court, the decision was upheld, and it was upheld, and he was deported. And he tried again to be applying for work permit visa, and I think he was back, but after 1 year. I'm not sure, but this is a little example why you shouldn't accept any offer. You have to be checking if this salary conform to the Swedish collective agreements. And of course, it's very easy. You can check it on different websites. What is the minimum or the maximum for any job? The salary or the minimum or the maximum of any salary in Sweden. Another important thing: the insurance and the holidays. So. I'm referring back to the Swedish Migration Office, offer a salary that is, intended to provide health insurance, life insurance, occupational injury insurance, and occupational pension insurance when the employee begins to work. Also, there is also another story. I'm trying to relate to different stories here, because so it makes it easier for people to understand. Sometimes the employer by mistake doesn't pay the right insurance and pension to the employee. So if this person, if we will say that Zach has been employed by Spotify. And Zach came and with his wife and children, and he started to work in Spotify. Everything is perfect, everything is good. He knows that he is not the one who's paying the pension or the insurance. It is the job of his employer to do this, yeah? Then Zach finished his 2 years contract, and he said, okay, I'm not going to be working in Spotify anymore. I am going to go and work in Volvo. When he went to work in Volvo, and he went to the migration office, and this is another thing we will be talking about, moving from one job to another, but this we'll speak about it a little bit later. But anyhow, Zach, when he went to the migration office and told them, okay, here is my papers, everything is good, I'm going to be changing my company from Spotify to Volvo. They said, oh, sorry, we can't offer you any extension. Why? Everything is right. I have paid, my employer paid my pension and my insurance. Why shouldn't I get a renewal for my work permit visa? The thing is, you couldn't get it for a simple reason, is that your employer didn't pay the right insurance, and they are related to injury insurance. If you had a critical accident or you had a life-threatening disease, he didn't pay the right insurance, and he didn't pay your pension. He paid your pension, but not the right amount of pension according to your job and salary. Okay, so then Zach say, okay, no problem. I will be paying for the difference of the pension that hasn't been paid correctly by my employer. But the migrations office will say, even if you are, yes, you can be retrospectively paying for the pension that you have, in the right amount of pension that you have in your employer hasn't paid for, but you couldn't pay for the insurance. You couldn't pay for insurance saying, okay, yeah, you should have been paying this amount of money in case that you got severely injured or had a life-threatening disease. You couldn't pay retrospectively for this health insurance. So what happened to Zach? The migration office released a decision, and this decision is rejection. And Zach has to leave the country because of a technical mistake that was done by the employer related to his insurance and his pension. Sadly to say that in 2017, it was recorded that there was 18,000 technical error by the Swedish Migration Office, and people had to be deported. Most of these people has been deported due to this technical problem and technical error, and they are called they are trying now to change this law, that if there was a technical or error from the migration office side, that the person can still be working, and he has his visa renewed until they solved the error. But before, if there is this error, they do not fix it and say you can wait till we fix it and we will see what will happen. No, if there was this error, they deport you, and most of the time you have the decision that you have to leave in 4 weeks, and it's a crisis if you you own a house or anything, and then you can reapply for the job again, which of course it's more difficult and more complicated. And so that's why now there is a different law, that if there was an error, the person can still get a renewal till they take the decision of what will be his status. Another very important thing, and it was again a very famous story in 2018 or 2019, someone who tried to, it was an American partners. They had their cafe, so you know, when you own your own business, sometimes you want to work day and night, and you don't want to have any weekends or anything. You are starting up your company and you are working a lot. It's your own company and you are working in your own company, yeah? So you want to be doing your best in building up the company. These lovely American partners, they were deported because they didn't have enough holidays. Yes, I can imagine, or I can see you now with your jaws drops. Yes, your jaw has to drop. Sweden has deported these, and these are not the only people, but this was also a story that had a lot of propaganda. These people has been deported because they didn't have enough holidays, because there is always a collective agreement in any industry related to salary, working hours, holidays, everything, training. So if you didn't have even your holiday, and because you didn't have your holiday because you are building your company and you want to work hard to build it, Sweden will not be happy with this. They will never appreciate. They wouldn't say, oh, well, this is good for you, you are trying to work hard. They say, no, you are burning yourself, this is not right, this is unhealthy, you will be deported. So yes, this is something very important that you need to be careful about when you are working in Sweden, anything related to your holidays. Now there is another very important part. Offer employment that enables the employee to support oneself. In order to satisfy the support requirement, the employee needs to work to an extent that will result in a salary of at least 13,000 krona per month before taxes. There are two things that I want to talk about here. First of all, and you have to be very careful, you are not allowed to be having 2 or 3 jobs to be covering this salary. So for example, you couldn't work in ICA supermarket, and then you work in Coop supermarket, and then you work in Willys supermarket. So 30%, 40%, so we can be having the collective salary of 13,000 krona. You are only allowed to be working in one place, and where you can get the salary of 13,000 krona before taxes. Where you can get 13,000 krona before taxes. Another thing which I feel it's a little bit unrealistic, the salary of 13,000. Because if you are going to be renting a place, if you are going to be coming with your wife, so to rent a place, at least it will be 7,000 without any utilities. So and then you need a bus card depending where do you live. Every one bus card, for example, for 1,000 krona, this is 9,000, and you have 1,000 for utilities, this is 10,000. And if you are cooking everything at home, you are never having anything out, you are not having any dinners or lunch out, you will be paying 3,000. So the 13,000 is like the minimum salary you can have, and this is before taxes. When this is taxed, this means that you will be earning less than 10,000. So I do not know how this is the requirement, because actually if you are having less than 10,000 per month, you can hardly, especially if you have your partner, you can hardly have this amount of money covering you for a month because of the rent. Because maybe if you are sharing a room or so, you can be paying 4,000 krona. But anyhow, this is the minimum before taxes. So now we have covered the thing related to advertisement, and to the thing related to pension and insurance and the holidays and the minimum salary. Okay, so now we are going to be talking about the 24-month visa and when you come to Sweden and starting your job. And maybe some of you say, Jasmine, we are not even in Sweden. Let's focus how to come to Sweden to work first, and then we talk about the 24-month work permit visa. Ladies and gentlemen, this is where the trick happens. That's why you need to listen to me closely, focus, leave everything, or you can pause, go and grab a cup of coffee or fika and come back. Now, ready? Let's go. So, I will be talking here about the two frauds that happens for people who are trying to obtain work permit visa legally but illegally. What do I mean by legally but illegally? You are having a valid legal work permit visa on your passport. It's a sticker which is not fake, it's not forged, it's legal, that has been issued from the Swedish Migration Office. But it is fraud. How? Here it comes. Here the fraud comes. Some people, work trafficker, they can take up to 20,000 euros. This is almost quarter a million Swedish krona for this visa. And then you will do nothing with this visa except flushing it after you arrive in Sweden. If you came in winter, you will curse the moment you have landed in the country. Okay, we are not talking about the weather now, we are talking about the visa. They tell you there are two phases of the fraud. First phase of the fraud, they get you a visa, but their intention is that you will only work in a company for 1 year only, and then they tell you, hey bye, there's no place for you. The second way of the fraud is there is no company, this company that they hired you through, it doesn't exist. And they tell you from the beginning, they are very honest, we will get you the work permit visa. This company doesn't exist in the first hand, but when you arrive to Sweden, you can deal with the situation and you try to find a job after you arrive. But the most important thing, that you came to Sweden in a very safe, secure way. You didn't come through a boat or anything. You came with a flight ticket and everything is good and safe, and you checked in very legally, but there is no company in the first place. You will come and you'll start looking for a job. Okay, here we go. I will tell you three here we go. I will tell you three things about the work permit visa, the 24 months, and you will understand why this is a fraud, because you end up returning back to your country after spending this 20,000 euros. That's why I say you are flushing it in the toilet. I'll be looking to my notes here. First of all, the 24 months visa. If you are coming to work, for example, if Fred came because he will be working in Volkswagen, and after 1 year, Volvo, he went to meet Volvo and they asked him, why don't you come and work with us? So, we are going to offer you a better salary. So Fred decided to leave Volkswagen and he will go to work in Volvo. This doesn't work. He has to reapply for a work permit visa, because within the first 2 years, the 24 months, he is not working with the same employer. So he needs to be reapplying for a work permit visa. But within the time the Swedish Migration Office are taking the decision, he can start working with Volvo till they get the decision. But is the decision guaranteed? No, you are not sure if you will get this new work permit visa accepted or not. But within the time he is waiting for the decision, he can go and work with Volvo after leaving Volkswagen, because he should have stayed in Volkswagen for the first 2 years, and then he can be changing employer. So this is number one. Remember here, very important critical thing. If Fred went to work with Volvo and he was supposed to be working Volkswagen, Volvo should have had the post advertised first for 10 days in the within the Swedish employment agency, and everyone should have access to this job first in Europe and Switzerland, and then they can be recruiting Fred. So if this job, the Swedish Migration Office found that this job hasn't been advertised, and Fred, through a friend or in a way or another, went to work in Volvo and left Volkswagen, this work permit visa will be revoked. So start off, he has to make sure that this job has been advertised. He didn't know, he wasn't hired internally. Two, that he has to be applying for a new work permit visa. If you want to start a new job after the 2 years visa, but this job is in the same company. For example, Angelica has been appointed to be working as a project manager in IKEA. She has been working there for 3 years. It's not even not the 2 years. For 3 years she has been working, everything is perfect, but now her employer says, oh, you are doing very well, you have had many trainings and you have performed more than well, then we are going to be promoting it to a different position. If her tasks she now finished the first 2 years, yes, and she got an extension, but her role or her responsibilities will be changed, she has to reapply for a new work permit visa, because her responsibilities, her roles, her work, her job description has been changed. Although she's with the same employer, she's still with IKEA, but the tasks and the roles and responsibilities has been changed. She has to reapply for a new work permit visa with the new position that she has got. But she can still be working with the new position. She can start having her new position while she's waiting for the decision from the Swedish Migration Office. But again, this job has to be advertised first. Okay? The third thing, if you got laid off, made redundant, the company can't have you anymore because of bankruptcy or anything, or the company the ownership of the company has changed, someone else has bought this company. So for example, we had Sarah owned the company and she was hiring Said. So Sarah decided to be selling her company to Olga. Said now is not working with Sarah. He is going to be working with Olga. This is a change for ownership of the company. Said has to go and to reapply for his work permit because the ownership changed. Another thing, very important, if the organization registration number of the company has changed, also Said has to go and reapply for his work permit visa. So if he was the ownership of the company has changed, or the organization registration number has changed, then the employee Said has to go and reapply for a work permit visa. The thing with getting laid off or made redundant because of bankruptcy, or if he resigned for any reason, within the 2 years that he has obtained from the migration office, he had 24 months work permit, but he was laid off or he resigned. In this case, he has 3 months to look for a new job. 3 months. If he resigned or he was made redundant the last 2 months, he may, and here I want to be stressing the word he may, get an extension, because he is allowed or permitted to stay in Sweden for 3 months to look for a new job. And he was about to finish his first 24 months. He resigned or he got laid off after 22 months of being on this work permit visa. He may apply for an extension till he find a new job. If he found a new job and this new job is less than 24 months visa, 24 months contract, again, he will need a new work permit visa. He's starting from scratch. He needs a new work permit visa. We have to remember here, this is also where sometimes the problem happens. If you're changing from one company to another, you need to make sure that your pension and your health insurance has been paid correctly. This is where lots of people get deported, because the previous employer didn't pay the right pension or the right insurance.